What if Avatar starred Matt Damon? Well, it almost did. Plus, Aliens fans almost got a Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn reunion. Additionally, the Na'vi were originally trained as a cheap indigenous workforce to avoid the cost of sending humans across space, while the film originally ended with Sully threatening humanity with a flesh-eating virus if they ever came back. To find out how we went from all of that to the movie we got, let's dive in and take a look at what could have been Avatar. Some of James Cameron's most iconic creations began in his dreams. In his 20s, he jolted awake from a nightmare, a metallic torso crawling out of an explosion. He immediately sketched the image, which would become the Terminator. But even earlier, as a teenager, Cameron dreamed of another world entirely. A glowing alien forest with fiber optic trees, fan-shaped lizards, a river sparkling with bioluminescent particles, and purple moss that lit up beneath each step. He captured the vision in a drawing, planting the seeds for Avatar. Reflecting on his nocturnal inspiration, Cameron later joked, "I have my own private streaming service, and it's better than anything out there. It runs every night for free." However, Cameron wouldn't put pen to paper and actually write a treatment for Avatar, which he would codename Project 880, until the mid-90s, when he became motivated to do an old-fashioned jungle adventure, but just set it on another planet. Cameron originally planned to make Avatar immediately after Titanic, envisioning a film where the Na'vi and their world would be entirely computer generated. But his ambitions quickly collided with reality, as Hollywood simply didn't have the technology to bring his vision to life, forcing him to put the film on hold. Instead, Cameron set out to develop the technology himself, and to change the way audiences experience movies altogether, believing that 3D was the native way to see movies, as our visual system naturally processes depth through stereoscopic vision. It would heighten the sense of immersion, making audiences feel as if they weren't just watching a movie, but stepping directly onto the alien world of Pandora. Studios, meanwhile, saw 3D as a lucrative opportunity, a way to raise ticket prices, draw audiences back into theaters, and boost box office profits. As Cameron and his team began developing new camera systems, he was amazed at what Peter Jackson was able to do with Gollum and then King Kong, by bringing compelling, photorealistic, fully CGI characters into a photorealistic world. Cameron was especially struck by the fact that King Kong's dense, sprawling jungles were created entirely with CGI. Confident his vision could now be realized, Cameron transformed his Avatar treatment into a full script. At the same time though, Cameron was also writing a script for Battle Angel, and wanted to use the same technology to make it. He would pitch both projects to Fox, the same studio that had just produced Titanic, telling them the order in which he made the films was arbitrary because they would be making an investment in the technology. Ultimately, Cameron had to choose which film he would make first, and ultimately chose Avatar after he ran into a bunch of script problems with Battle Angel trying to synthesize down 10 graphic novels into one script. But Fox executives were hesitant. The budget for Avatar was massive, the technology untested, and the story itself, featuring tall blue aliens, left them uncertain. However, they agreed to fund a $10 million proof of concept reel, but to Cameron's shock, the studio ultimately passed after reviewing it. Undeterred, Cameron took the project to Disney, where a deal was nearly in place, until Fox had a change of heart. Fearing they were about to miss out on another Cameron blockbuster, the studio swooped back in, agreeing to finance the film while bringing in partners to share the risk. As one Fox executive put it, "We don't really get the giant blue guys with tails, but we believe in you and we want to make this movie." Part of the reason that Fox agreed to move forward was that Cameron had to scale back his ambitions, trimming the budget and cutting entire characters from the script. So what would Cameron's original vision for Avatar have been like? First of all, several characters had different names. Jake Scully was Josh Scully, Neytiri was Zulika, and Dr. Grace Augustine was Dr. Grace Shipley. The film would have opened with a bleak, extended glimpse of Earth, far more detailed than anything shown in the final film, with some of that only surviving in deleted scenes. This version of Earth isn't just polluted, it's on the brink of collapse. The ecosystem has been devastated by mass extinctions. Biodiversity is gone, and the planet's surface has been almost entirely industrialized. It's a world where nature is a distant memory, urbanized, gray, and suffocating under layers of filth and high-tech decay. The tone is pure dystopia, echoing Blade Runner with its rain-soaked metallic sprawl, and a population that has become completely disconnected from anything green or living. Meanwhile, we learn that because interstellar travel is so energy intensive, costing roughly $1 million per pound of mass, the Avatar program exists to train Na'vi to be an indigenous workforce for RDA in the hopes of avoiding the enormous expense of sending human labor across space. Additionally, refining the unobtainium, so named as a tongue-in-cheek joke by humans that ultimately just stuck, directly on Pandora reduces its weight, making it far cheaper to transport back to Earth. While en route to Pandora, Josh is taken to witness the birth of his avatar body from a glass and rubber womb. The avatar is alive and responsive, even before any permanent neural link is established, raising the unsettling idea that these bodies possess their own consciousness. We learn that the avatars respond more positively when their human counterparts are present at birth, having been psionically linked throughout the journey to Pandora, a process Cameron likens to formatting a hard drive. However, the scene introduces a deeper ethical question. If these avatars are living beings in their own right, is it justifiable for Sully to impose his consciousness onto one? It's a dilemma that echoes the film's broader theme, whether humanity has any right to impose its will on Pandora itself. Sully is also never promised the use of his legs back in this version by Colonel Quaritch. His avatar is how he's able to walk again, and his first moments on his feet are raw and emotional. Instead of exhilaration, he cries, overwhelmed by the sensation of walking for the first time since his injury. As a result, Sully is a less conflicted character in this version. Since there's no promise of regaining the use of his human legs, he has no incentive to return to his old body. The avatar in this one isn't a temporary escape, it's permanent liberation. Sully's first venture into Pandora's bioluminescent forest was also strikingly different. Having never seen a forest in his life, he was overwhelmed, needing Grace to guide him through the alien ecosystem. Additionally, in this version, avatars could see the UV spectrum, which we'd see in their POV, revealing the world in vivid, otherworldly colors. The script also included darker subplots. An avatar operator named Hegner had become a broken man after his avatar was eaten alive by one of the planet's creatures. It's later revealed that Hegner had fallen in love with a Na'vi woman, married her, and then lost her when human soldiers killed 5 Na'vi, which is what triggered the rift between the species. Even the central conflict played out differently. There was no unobtainium beneath Home Tree. The military simply wanted to destroy the Na'vi village to intimidate all other tribes into submission. Instead, the unobtainium is in the floating mountains, where it acts as a magnetic superconductor, which is why those mountains float. Sully also doesn't regain the Na'vi's trust by taming the dragon, but instead by leading a raid on Hell's Gate to free captured prisoners. Pandora itself is also depicted as much more of a living entity, actively mobilizing the planet's plants and animals to drive humanity away. The climactic battle saw not just the Na'vi, but some humans and avatar operators rise up against the RDA, culminating in a far harsher ending, Sully threatening the retreating RDA forces with the prospect of a flesh-eating virus that would wipe out humanity if they ever returned, a bluff that implied Pandora would not tolerate another invasion. When it came time to cast the film, to hedge his bets, Cameron wanted a movie star and turned to Matt Damon, offering him 10% of the box office. And while Damon desperately wanted to work with Cameron, he was in the middle of shooting the Bourne Ultimatum, and if he committed to Avatar, it meant he'd have to leave that movie a little early, and leave everyone working on it in the lurch a little bit, which Damon didn't want to do. Ultimately, he would turn down Avatar, and later joked that after Avatar made $2 billion, that it was probably the most money an actor ever turned down. Cameron, realizing with Avatar's groundbreaking visual effects and 3D technology that the movie didn't need a star, saying the idea itself is the star, then sought to cast a relative unknown. However, the studio kept pushing for a bankable name and strongly advocated for Jake Gyllenhaal. Gyllenhaal ultimately turned down the role, feeling unprepared to take on a project of such massive scale, opting to star in Prince of Persia instead, which he predicted would reinvent video game adaptations, and finally pull off what people hoped video game adaptations were capable of. In the end, the final contenders for the role of Jake Sully came down to Channing Tatum, Chris Evans, and Sam Worthington, who at the time was living out of his car. While all three delivered solid performances throughout the audition process, it was the final speech that set Worthington apart, as he gave a commanding weight to the final line, "This is our land, ride now, go as fast as the wind can carry you." When Cameron heard Worthington deliver it, he knew he'd found his lead. "I would have followed him into battle," the director said, "and I wouldn't have followed the other guys." Cameron regular Michael Biehn was originally up for the role of Colonel Quaritch, and even helped develop the character during early stages. He expected to be cast until he got wind of a surprising development. According to Biehn, he first heard he might not get the role through an unexpected source, his son. While attending school with producer John Lando's son, the two boys spoke, and Lando's son mentioned that once Cameron cast Sigourney Weaver, Cameron was concerned that adding Biehn would make the final film feel too much like an Aliens reunion, something Cameron wanted to avoid. A few months later, Bihn's agent confirmed that he hadn't been cast, citing that exact reason. The part ultimately went to Stephen Lang, who, in an ironic twist, had originally auditioned for a role in Aliens decades earlier. Though he didn't land the part, Cameron had remembered him, and saw in Lang the right energy to bring Quaritch to life. In the end, Avatar became a global phenomenon, redefining visual effects, 3D filmmaking, and box office success. But the version we got was just one path through the dense jungle of ideas Cameron explored. While the final film was dismissed by some as Pocahontas in space, Project 880 offered a darker, more ethically complex story. It's also interesting to wonder what if Cameron chose to direct Battle Angel instead, an ambitious project in its own right, but unlikely to have made the same cultural or financial impact. And although Avatar helped spark a wave of 3D films, the technology never became the lasting revolution Cameron had envisioned, feeling now more like a passing fad, as most films that still use it merely convert to 3D in post, rather than shoot natively in the format like Cameron. In the end, Avatar changed the industry, but Cameron's original vision may have delivered a story with deeper themes, sharper commentary, and a more lasting emotional impact. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of Hollywood's untold stories and unmade movies.